When this game was first announced, I was very skeptical, like most people, on whether this game would end up being good, but thankfully Bloober Team completely shattered those bad thoughts of mine almost as soon as I started playing. They faithfully remade Silent Hill 2 in nothing but great ways. This game is an amazing experience for both people that have never played the original Silent Hill 2 and for those like me that have played the original and loved it too. All of the great qualities of the original have basically been brought back with modern technology and done in such an intricate and detailed manner that it really makes you appreciate how well this game is and how well the original game was back for its time too. With the new third-person perspective and modernized controls and visuals, everything really felt so fresh and alive and caught me by surprise. For those of you that are unfamiliar with this game's plot, the premise is that the character you play is named James Sunderland, and he recently got a letter from his wife that's been dead for 3 years saying that she's in their special place in a town called Silent Hill. Now, this is the very beginning of the game, but you will slowly realize what everything means as you progress through this intricately crafted story. There's a ton of symbolism and underlying meanings within the plot, which once you play through, you'll slowly start to appreciate as you either think about them or look deeper into them through resources online. There's a ton of YouTube videos that go deeper into those little things about Silent Hill 2, both in the original and even in this remake. As for remake standards, it's pretty much identical to how the original was, with some minor differences, but that takes nothing away from how amazing it still is. The combat, at its core, still follows the same sort of feeling that the original game had, with having a melee weapon and a couple of guns. However, in the remake, something that's completely different from the original is the addition of a dodge, which allows you to stay in close combat with your melee weapon and keep up the aggression, or take quick dodge if an enemy got too close to you while you were shooting them. The core combat I found extremely fun, but after a certain point you kind of figure out how to deal with all the enemies and it becomes relatively easy, which isn't a bad thing since that means you've learned how to deal with some of the harsh settings of the game. But for those looking more for a challenge of sorts in the combat, this isn't really the correct game for that. There's not much to talk about over the gunplay since it's fairly normal as well. Surprisingly, there are a couple of difficulty options you have both for the combat and the puzzles, since those are the two main things in the game. There's easy, standard, and hard for both the combat and the puzzles. I played the game on hard for both the combat and the puzzles, and I absolutely loved it. The combat didn't feel like the enemies were insane bullet sponges or had a crazy amount of HP, and the puzzles were actually fairly challenging at times and a bit cryptic, which I enjoyed a lot. Other features that the game has which can add to the difficulty are the interface options, which vary between either default, modern, and retro. I decided to play on retro, which ended up enhancing and enriching the way that I play, since what retro does is it takes away all the tutorials and the tips, the button prompts, ammo amounts, subtitle names, and QTEs just like the original game. Default is the standard, where it shows everything I said before besides a couple of QTE icons and loading screen hints. And modern just shows everything sort of like your journalist mode, but there's no shame in picking whichever difficulty and interface preset you think would be the most fun for you. When it comes to the designs, they're still just as iconic as they were in the original, with the most notable one being Pyramid Head still. But even all the characters were designed in almost the same way as they were in the original, with some minor changes, whether it's their outfit or just a little bit of like their demeanor. The most important design for me in this was the town itself. Everything felt so alive and intricately detailed to the point some of it actually seemed real. If you've played the original, you will thoroughly enjoy the level designs of each area since they're very similar, if not identical, but with differences here and there as well, just to keep it fresh. The exploration was my favorite part of the game, with how everything is just intertwined so well, and having that sense of accomplishment once you finally find something in some claustrophobic hallway or alleyway, or after finally solving a tough puzzle. In addition to that, the sound design is immaculate. It all sounds exactly how you might imagine with the monsters and even the environment and all the ambiance too. The music is just perfect. Still composed by Akira Yamaoka, everything just hits the nail perfectly. The ambiance in this remake is just as frightening as it was in the original. It's super atmospheric and easy to get immersed into this world thanks to the OST. It just really adds to the entire experience when the music and the ambiance just meshes perfectly. And I just wanted to take some time to appreciate how well they recreated all of the characters in the game, but mainly James in particular. The actor Luke Roberts portrayed James in such a way that just really makes him feel so human and real. It was just really amazing to experience. His body language and his little mannerisms with his expressions just really blends it all together amazingly. Now, this little bit I'll be showing will be from one of the exclusive endings of the game, so skip to the ending if you don't want to get spoiled, but I just really wanted to show it as an example of how well he did at bringing James to life.
I tried. I really did, but I can't go on without you. I can't forgive myself for what I've done.
I know. What's wrong, honey?
I miss you so much. I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
It's okay.
Will you wait for me?
James. I've always been waiting for you.
Man, it's just so perfect. With how well Bloober Team created this remake, I'm really hoping that Konami can allow them to bring Silent Hill 1 and 3 back into modern gaming with another remake. They faithfully recreated all the things that I loved about the original and even at some points made it a bit better. I truly believe that back when the original Team Silent were creating Silent Hill 2 for the PS2, this might have been exactly what they were envisioning. Even though I've been praising this game for almost the entire video, there are a few faults as well. In particular, the performance on PC. There's been multiple reports about the game stuttering while you're exploring, and I myself even had those same issues. While it's not the end of the world, it kind of takes you out of the immersion sometimes when you notice it happening. In relation to that, while it's a minor gripe of mine, the cutscenes are all forced at 30 FPS. I wasn't really a fan of, but I got used to it over time. It's just a little jarring once you see it. And this last fault is more of a personal thing, but it really feels like the survival aspect of the game was kinda non-existent. By that I mean that you almost never have to manage or carefully pick and choose when to use a healing item or when to use your ammo. By the end of the game I had around 15 healing items or so and almost 200 bullets throughout all of my weapons combined, which is pretty insane. And I genuinely believe that this is one of the best horror games that have come out in recent years. Although it's just a remake, and it might be a little unfair to say that, that's just what I think. I highly recommend this to anyone that is a fan of horror games or even wants to try and get into the Silent Hill series, and even for those long Silent Hill fans that were, for some reason, on the fence on playing this game. Hopefully you enjoyed my review of Silent Hill 2 Remake. I tried to make it as spoiler-free as possible. But for those of you that have finished the game, I'd really like to know what you guys thought about it, whether you thought something good or bad. I'm just curious to know. So leave a comment and I'll make sure to read the critiques. As always, if you'd like to watch me stream my playthroughs, I do stream on Twitch. I'll leave it in the description below and also put it on the screen here. As for the next game that I'm going to make a review video of, I'm not quite certain yet, but once I find out, I'll make sure to upload it as soon as possible. So yeah, peace.